Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome back to yet another video. Today I'm going to show you how to create a Kanye West inspired beat using a sample. I'm going to use some new techniques how to chop and flip this sample. So Kanye West is a genius when it comes to sampling, so let me show you how to create something similar. So let's jump right in. Step 1. Choosing the right sample. So the foundation for many Kanye West beats lies into sampling. So for this beat I've used a sample which is called 4 Wonders Just Looking for My Love. So I can't show you the sample because of copyright reasons, so make sure you download the sample and drag it into FL Studio. Step 2 is chopping up the sample. So when you're dragging a sample into FL Studio, you just want to pick the parts or sections of the samples you want to use. And I recommend you select 2 or 3 samples from the full track. So for this beat I picked 3 samples and then I've separated the layers from the sample using the stem splitter. So if you want to learn how to do this, the link will be in the description. So first I'm using this sample from the intro from the original track, which is kind of a very classic build up for those old soul samples. Amazing. So that's the first sample. Then I chopped up this main sample. So I've layered 2 vocal samples from the track, and I'm making sure I'm switching up the sample by switching up this part, so it isn't getting too repetitive. And the final sample is just a bass line and the instrument. Main part of the beat. And as you can see, it contains a lot of low frequencies and mid frequencies. So I've pitched up the full sample, but I've pitched down the bass line. So when I separate the stems, I've pitched up the sample 500 cents. But when pitching up a sample, you basically destroy the low frequencies because you're pitching up those low frequencies. So an easy way, which wasn't possible before, is to pitch down the bass lines from the original track. So you also select this one and then just pitch this one down 700 cents, which is 1 octave. So if you pitch it up 500, an octave is 1200 cents. So we pitch this one down 700. That's it. Otherwise it would sound like this. Which is also a possibility. So right now I don't have to add a new instrument and add a bass line myself. So an easy trick when it comes to sampling using this new method. So we've already arranged the sample and we've created an interesting pattern. And this will be the backbone of the beat. So the main and most interesting part. And as I already showed you, make sure to play around with the pitch of the sample, stretch it, adjust the BPM, just create something unique. So the next step is adding the drums. And when it comes to adding drums to those samples, it just has to fit the groove of the sample. So as you can see right here, when I zoom in, for example, the bass line, it isn't played on beat perfectly. So we have to make sure we add a lot of groove and bounce to the drums to make sure it fits the sample. Because otherwise, when the sample sounds very sequenced, it isn't just a good fit for a sample like this. So first I'm starting off with a simple loop. So first I'm starting off with a simple loop which adds some texture to the background. Then I'm adding a simple percussion loop to add some more mid frequencies. A very easy way how to start off building drums. Very, very easy. Then I'm adding this unique head loop, just to add some more texture and a vintage feeling to the sample. So now the next step is to add the main drums. So in this case, I'm using this clip, which already contains a lot of reverb. So let's draw it in. And you could even add more bounce by playing around with the individual volume of the samples, so it doesn't sound that quantized. Then we add a second layer because I think it was missing some mid frequencies. So I've added this clip. And then I wanted to add some hi-hats to make sure the beat comes alive and it contains some more energy. So I'm using this head sample from the Blackout drum kit, this one. And then I've used this pattern and I've randomized the velocity by using Option R. So this way it's very easy to add some more groove and bounce to your drum loop. Then I'm adding some open heads, so I've added this rhythm using some very general open heads. Very simple, but I'm adding a lot of groove to this beat. And the final step, but one of the most important elements, is the kick. So when editing the kick, you want to make sure it fits the groove of the bass line. So I'm adding kick sample 1 from the Blackout drum kit. This one. So this beat I wanted the drums and the sample to sound very vintage, but I wanted the kick to sound very clean and contain a lot of low frequencies. So I've added this rhythm. As you can see, I've also played around with the velocity to add some more groove, because otherwise it sounds very, very flat. So let me flatten it out. So now it sounds like this. And it just doesn't sound right. So you have to make sure when you're adding something like this, you reduce the velocity to add some more groove and vibe to the drum loop. And in the end, you want to make sure you add some swing. So I've added 90% of swing. So just make sure not all the drums are played at the exact same time. So this also adds some more uniqueness to the drum loop. So now that we have our main elements, let's arrange the beat. So it's very important to create variations in the arrangement by introducing new elements and keep the listener engaged, because those beats could be very repetitive. So you have to think about adding and removing elements at certain points within the beat. So think about the build up, think about how to keep your beat interesting, but also make room for the artist, because in the end, you want to make sure when a rapper adds the vocals, it just sounds good. And I think in most cases, when it comes to those beats, the vocal or the rapper is the main element of the beat. And when it comes to arranging those beats, I think it's very important to think in 16 bars. So switch up the beat every 16 bars. So for example, we're starting off right here after the intro of the beat. Very, very simple. And right here, I'm switching up the beat. Just to announce the transition. We have the main part right here. And again, the hi-hats. And right here, I'm transitioning back to create kind of a bridge or verse. As you see, I'm removing some of the high frequencies of the instruments. And right here, again, I'm doing the exact same thing. But in the end, after listening to this beat for almost 2 minutes, you just have to switch it up. So right here, I'm adding the third sample, which I chopped from the original track. So let's have a listen. Keeping it interesting, surprising the listener. So right here, the kick is coming in. So make sure to sometimes switch up the kick pattern. The simplest way to do this is just remove some elements. Switching it up. Main part of the beat. So right here, again, I'm removing the kick, and this is basically the outro of the beat right here. So I'm very quickly explaining how to arrange a beat, and most of the case for these beats is very simple. I would recommend you just download one of your favorite beats and just recreate the arrangement. And this is one of the easiest ways how to learn how to arrange your beats. So the next step is mixing and mastering. So when your arrangement is solid, dive into the mixing phase. And the easiest way how to mix a beat is first balance all the elements. So basically just adjust the volume without EQing anything. And after doing this, you apply an EQ and maybe add some compression. So let me show you how to do this. So within the mixer, I've separated the vocals, the instruments, and the bass lines. So this way it's very easy to mix certain elements, and then I've linked them to one mixer bus. So for example, I've selected those three. You can simply do this by pressing Command and then select those ones, and then press right mouse button and then select route to this track only. And then those three buses will be linked to one mixer bus. And when you use a sample and then separate the stems, it could sound phased somehow. So you want to make sure you clean up the sample. So from the instrumental part of the sample, make sure to remove the low frequencies. You don't want them and you don't need them. Then I've added this second EQ just to remove some of the mid frequencies because otherwise the samples sound very harsh. Then I've used this compressor to basically make sure I'm reducing the peaks. Very simple. And I've just used this simple preset from the Comfet 76. And then I've added a reverb. I've used this reverb and this one sounds very vintage. So I think it's a great fit just to widen up the sample a little bit. So then I've added some panning to the elements. So I'm making sure I'm giving every element an individual space or individual spot within a mix. So this is very easy and it instantly cleans up your mix. So after you've reduced the unnecessary frequencies and you've added some reverb and added some compression, let's move on to the master. So most of the cases mastering could be very simple, especially when you're just selling beats on YouTube. So first I'm adding some subtle saturation to basically glue together a signal. So I'm adding around 8 to 10% of drive in most of the cases. Then I'm using Golfos Master, which is an AI tool which basically balances the output signal, and this in the end makes your mix sound way more stable. So an amazing tool. And then I'm basically maximizing the beat using Ozone 10, using a simple maximizer, setting the ceiling to 0.1 dB, and I'm able to boost the signal by almost 5 dB. So you're basically boosting the signal until the kick hits 0. And there you have it, a Kanye West inspired beat using a sample. So remember, the key is to get creative, create something new, create something your own. So if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to leave it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments what you want to see in the next video. So with those being said, I hope you have a great day, create some awesome music, and see you in the next video.